Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about depression and I'm going to help you to feel so much better, hopefully. That's my intention, is to help you to feel better. Everything I'm going to share with you today is going to help you to unglue from the energy of depression. I've done a video in the past about my own personal journey through depression, and if you want, you can check that out. That's got some helpful information also. But today I'm going to be talking about some of the very basic things that nobody ever talks about. I didn't hear anybody talk about this. And I didn't hear anybody talking about the steps that I'm going to offer. And we're going to start here. This is very important. And it is step one. The trailhead to healing is knowing that depression and all of the things that it has you believe it's false. It's an illusion. It's not real. So it's very, very important to start from that place, because a lot of the times we have this false notion that we're trying to solve a problem that's real. We're trying to solve a valid problem that's rooted in reality. The actual issue is that depression it's not based in truth. I'm not saying that you're not experiencing physical, emotional, and mental problems right now. What I'm saying is, starting from the trailhead of the problem is, I have lost vision. I am not seeing things clearly. I am not seeing the world as it is. I'm not experiencing myself as I truly am. And this is important because a lot of the times the energy of depression has us believing I am broken. My life is terrible. I am terrible. So then we're trying to solve the problem of I'm inherently broken. Everything is bad in me, out there, the whole shebang. I'm incapable and all this stuff. And also the energy of depression will try to convince you to think about things and gets you on a trailhead that's way in the dark woods, thinking about questions that don't matter, thinking about why is this way? Why did this happen to me? Why don't I feel a certain way? Why do I feel like this? What's wrong with me? What about this problem? What about that problem? Why is life like this? Why is life like that? And it gets you all up here. So the illusion of depression is very convincing. It's a very convincing filter, and it leads to symptoms of body, mind, spirit. However, it's just an illusion. So if we keep that in mind, everything I'm thinking right now, everything I'm saying right now, the way that I act right now, these things are not based in truth. This energy inside of me, it's not based in truth. Okay? There's either light or darkness. And the depression of energy, it's basically darkness, absence, the light. So how do we start to dissolve that darkness? We have to bring light to the darkness. We have to bring conscious awareness to the darkness. That brings me to step two. Step two, very important, is knowing that your ego has the steering wheel right now. So depression is your ego run amok. It's your ego gone nuts. It's part of your psyche and part of your identity that's taken the wheel of your life and driven it off into a cliff and made a big mess. The illusion of a big mess, because really there's nothing happening. But it's made this big mess, this internal situation. And that's really important to know because it helps us to not be helpless. So these first two steps are crucial. These first two steps are so important. There is a physical, emotional, psychological, and spiritual, and social, and cultural aspect to depression, but it's very important for these two first steps for you to know that depression is an illusion. Don't believe anything it says, and your ego is the one steering the ship right now. And your ego's in charge, and it's making a mess. This is great because now you're not a helpless victim. Now it's not some chemical imbalance. I had depression for my entire adult life, okay? And by any doctor's standards, they would have said, you have clinical depression, you're gonna be like this forever. And that makes you a helpless victim to some random occurrence that just bopped you on the head and now you're stuck feeling like hell the rest of your life. But that's just not the truth. The truth is, this takes me to step three, is that depression is not just physical, not just chemical, not just emotional, not just spiritual, not just psychological. It's all of these things. But what it is, partly a big part of it for many, 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 many people, is a suppression of energies that you don't want to feel, that you haven't been feeling, that you've been avoiding, that you've been suppressing, that you've been shoving down, that you have not been feeling. Let your feelings be felt. Let your feelings be felt. And here's how depression works. In part, here's how depression works. There's a symphony of life happening. There's instruments, there's pain, there's sorrow, there's sadness, there's fear, there's birth, there's death, there's success, there's failure, there's adventure. There's all kinds of things happening to us. It's intense. And we've got peaks and we get valleys. We get peaks and we get valleys. And it is not acceptable in our culture to, first of all, to be in a valley. It's very, very much looked down upon. It's also unacceptable to hear the notes of any of the orchestral instruments in life that are not the beautiful harp and the beautiful clarinet and the beautiful violin. We want all the strings. We don't want any of the bass. We don't want any of the drums. We don't want any of the oboe. We don't want any of the peaks. We don't want any of the valleys. We just want all the peaks. But it is crazy to think that we're just going to have one note our whole life. And then here's how we're taught is life has to be good, and you have to enjoy every moment of your life, really soak it up, really. It's just a big Instagram feed. Like life is just one big Instagram feed. And if you're not swinging from the tree trunks in the jungle, it's not okay. And then what happens is when we start feeling things, when things happen and we start feeling emotions, I don't want to feel this. I don't want to feel this sadness. I don't want to feel this grief. I don't want to feel this anger. I don't want to feel this rage. We're not really thinking this, but it happens. Anger arises. A really bad situation happens. A really bad breakup, a heartache, whatever it is. And we're feeling in pain. We're feeling in grief. We're feeling in sadness. We're feeling in fear. And we don't want to feel it, so we suppress it and we avoid it and we neglect feeling the feeling. And these things pile up. So we ignore the symphony of life. We cover our ears to all the emotions and all the cacophony of sounds of life. We cover our ears, and then we wonder why we aren't able to hear anything at one point. We wonder why we're deaf to the sound of life. We wonder why we can't feel anything. We wonder why we're only able to feel one thing, and that's numbness, sadness, apathy, flatness, and the frustration of the fact that we don't want to feel anything, that I can't feel anything. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to be anything. I don't know what I want. Right, because you've lived your life like this, and you've shut the world out. That's what happens for a lot of people. So it's an energetic backlog. And again, it's not you doing this on purpose. You didn't even realize you were doing it. That's just the way that our culture and our society has kind of shown us. Nobody sits you down in school and says, hey, when you feel sad, notice how your diaphragm feels. Notice how your heart feels. Notice that there's tears that want to come up. Notice there's a lump in your throat. Let's go through all of these things and really feel it. And take like 48 hours to feel the sadness of whatever that thing was that just happened. But that's not how we're dealt with. What happens is from childhood, you're born, and then you have whatever traumas that happened in your childhood, and then you have your teenage years, and it's just one endless stream of just go, 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 go. Don't feel a thing. Eventually, the system just says, okay, fine, and it shuts down. And then we get a sewer lid called depression. Depression is one big sewer lid on top of everything that you haven't felt for your whole life. This is part of it, okay? This is part of it. This is part of what's happening. It's exhausting. This is another reason why there's all these physical symptoms that come with depression, like exhaustion, fatigue, numbness, flatness, lack of motivation. Of course, we're not going to have lack of motivation if we're spending all of this energy. It takes so much energy to be a literal sewer lid, an energetic sewer lid, and push the stuff down and suppress it and ignore it and not feel it. And eventually, yeah, you're going to get what we call depression. So we have to go through feeling the feelings. And I know if you're listening to this and you have depression, you're like, maybe you're possibly saying, but I feel sad. I feel terrible. I know I'm feeling something. I'm feeling terrible. But what's actually happening for a lot of people, and this was me, is if somebody told me you're not feeling, you're not allowing your emotions to be felt, I would have said, what are you talking about? I feel emotions every day. I just feel terrible. But in truth, in reality, you're not really feeling the emotions. They're there and you're trying to fix them. You're trying to change them. You're trying to not feel them. You're trying to avoid feeling the feelings. You're trying to run from them. You don't even realize you're doing this, but you are. So step 4 is actually feeling the feelings. Actually feeling the feelings. Step 3 and step 4 are kind of joined together. So your depression is suppression in part. Number 4, you got to feel through the feelings. That means taking some time to allow yourself to be however you are right now. So we have to take an angle at this of what if, just what if. What if the way that you're feeling is not a problem? What if you could allow it to be there? What if it's okay that you feel the way that you feel? What this question does is it eliminates a layer of suffering. So now if you're okay with how you feel, you've taken part of the lid off of that sewer. I'm not sitting here resisting, resenting, hating, wanting it to be any different. I've taken the lid off of part of the sewer, okay? So that's part of it, is stop wishing that it was any different than it is. That sounds crazy. It sounds like if I stop wishing it was any different than what it is, won't I just be stuck here? No, I'm not saying to wallow in it and to feel pity and to lay around all day feeling depressed. I'm saying feel into it. Stop resenting it. Stop trying to change it or fix it and feel it. Allow it to be felt. So when we allow it to be felt on a somatic level, on a physical level, when you're letting yourself feel what's there, now, instead of being stuck in the valley, there's peaks and there's valleys. Now, instead of sitting in the valley, you're actually making progress. You're traversing through the valley. You're traveling through the valley. You're not setting up camp in the valley. You're not talking about the valley. You're not trying to figure out the valley. You're not trying to analyze the valley and figure out, how did I end up in this valley? Why am I here in this valley? I'm stuck in this valley. I'm stuck in this valley, looking around at the valley, analyzing the valley, talking about the valley to everybody, or not talking about the valley and just sitting there, just resenting the valley. I hate the valley. You're wasting all your energy wanting to be anywhere but the valley. Meanwhile, the only way to get out of the valley is to actually travel through it. To actually travel through it energetically. That means feel the feelings. Let them be felt. The only way out is through it. You can't get around it. There's no magic pill for this. Antidepressants, if that's your thing, if that's what you feel called to and you really need that to get your footing, no judgment here, no judgment, but it's not the answer. It might be maybe a little stepping stone or something for you, but it's not the answer. The answer is you got to traverse. You got to feel through what you're suppressing. So how do you do that? It's very simple. You go into allowing your emotions to be felt. So you just go through a body scan. You go through, how am I literally, where do I feel this? Where is it living? Is it in my chest? Is it in my solar plexus? Is it in my head? Is it behind my eyes? Is it in my jaw? Let me go ahead and feel through this. And if tears want to come, then we let them come. And if tears don't want to come, then we don't let them come. And if I feel anger behind it, let me feel the anger. Let me sit with the anger. Let me allow the anger to be there. Let whatever might come up to come up. And we do this all the time. We do this every day. This is like taking an energetic shower. So some of us get stuck in these valleys, and some of us have a proclivity to be in the valley, and some of us have a proclivity to be in a state of depression. Some of us have a genetic maybe chemical, physical, emotional, spiritual kind of tendency towards the valleys. But part of the way that we, as people who know, if you happen to know that that's you, we can know that it's very, very important to every day take some time to be with your feelings, to not avoid them. That's good old basic hygiene. And I want to take it now to step 5. And step 5 is the housekeeping, taking care of oneself. This is the list of things that we have to do if you are prone to depression, which, by the way, 1 in 10 Americans right now are taking antidepressants. So I'd say every human being is prone to depression. It is very, very common. A lot of people mark it off as just a chemical imbalance, but the truth is, like I've been saying throughout this video, it's a physical, social, spiritual, emotional, cultural, it's a multifaceted issue. It's not just a chemical imbalance. The chemical imbalance is downstream of everything else happening. By the time that you feel complete and total blackness in your being, the illusion of darkness is taken over. That's downstream of all the things that have gone awry on the way there. So there's lots of different things that could happen. Maybe you had some traumatic childhood stuff. Maybe you had some trauma during your adulthood. Maybe there's some stacking of stress events that just broke the camel's back. But there's also the housekeeping that's really important for us to optimize the environment of our being. And that's body, mind, and spirit optimization. So this is a list of things that you as a person who might get stuck in those valleys sometimes, this means that you're sensitive. This means that you have a certain list of things that you need to do, that these are not optional for you. There's a part of depression that's a messenger. And it's not just a chaotic, accidental, you didn't just get nunchucked with it. Like, it's not some accidental thing that this is how you're feeling. There's a messenger here, and it's usually multi-layered. So body, mind, and spirit means you have to take care of your body. That means you have to eat anti-inflammatory foods. I have a couple videos about the anti-inflammatory protocol that really helped a great deal to help me to heal from depression. I haven't had depression in 9 years now, and that diet is a huge part of it. Basically, if you don't get rid of anything else, get rid of gluten and dairy. That leads me to the next step, and that's the witness. So cultivating the witness, being in the witness, being aware that you're aware. There's a part of you that is untouched by depression. There's a part of you that's never been depressed, can't be depressed, never will be depressed. And the more that you lean into that part of yourself, the more you're unglued from the identification with the misery, the more you're unglued from the identification with the small, poor little me, as Eckhart Tolle calls it. There's a part of you that's aware that you're listening to me talk. There's a part of you that's aware that you're here, that you're alive. In the Eastern traditions, they call it the witness. You can call it whatever you want, but it's actually more you than your personality. This is where mindfulness comes in, and this is why mindfulness is very good for treating depression, because you're resting in the witness. You're not fused with some nonsense. You're not letting the ego and its clever little beast of depression take over your mind. The last step that I wanted to offer is structure. Structure is an energetic boundary that you're setting up for yourself. A part of depression, the energy of depression is it's kind of vague, and it thrives off of vagueness, and it thrives off of instability, and it thrives off of a lack of structure. So structure really, really helps. So wherever you can place structure in, even little tiny bits of like waking up at the same time every day, no matter what, getting outside for 5,000 steps every afternoon, no matter what. Writing these things out, putting them on the fridge maybe, and then marking them off and keeping to this structure is really helpful for depression. All right, everybody. So those are some steps to help you to start feeling better and getting rid of this energy of depression. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Hey, bye everybody. You made it to the end and I know you're gonna feel so much better. But if you want to get more information about that releasing process that I mentioned, I have this video called Letting Go, and it's going into great depth about how to let go, how to get into that emotional releasing process. If you want to like actually experience it, I also go into all the books that you might want to check out, and we just go in depth. So if you want to experience that right now, go check out that video. That's going to be a really good one you don't want to miss.